Hi, Tiramisu.
Hi, Buttercup. How are you?
I am wonderful. I'm extra excited today because we have two guests with us to speak for us today. This is
Yay.
Dawn and Joel. Hi, guys.
Hello, hello,
Hi.
hello, hello.
So we are going to get into today. We talked last time about authentic relationships outside of race. So we decided that the next natural progression would be married couples that are not of the same race. So Dawn and Joel are here to talk with us about that. But before we get started, you ready, Tiramisu?
I'm ready, Buttercup.
Joe to glow.
Tea to glee.
So Dawn and Joel have known each other 38 years and have been married 27. All I have to say about that is that in itself is
Yes.
a huge accomplishment. So
Yes.
kudos to
Congratulations.
them for hanging in and working through marriage because all marriage is work.
Yes.
So, Tiramisu, you had something to add today before we have our guest speakers join.
Yes. So interestingly enough, over 50 years ago, a loving couple, one white male, one African American female, got married. But sadly, in the state that they lived in and 15 other states, the anti-miscegenation laws prohibited them from being married. So thankfully, on June 12th, 1967, the Loving versus Virginia Supreme Court case allowed for them to be married. So I am thankful for that because we have you, Dawn and Joel.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, 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 yes. So today, this is the beginning of our discussion, and I am so excited to hear how you all would like to begin the discussion and what you'd like to talk about. Dawn and Joel?
So thank you first. Thank you for allowing us to come on your podcast. It's a great opportunity, I think, to share our experience. And I'm so glad you're covering this subject matter. I think there are a lot of people who may have questions or just people who want to know, like, what is it like when you marry someone outside of your race? And we're happy to share our experience with your viewers. So thank you for inviting us to be a part of this platform.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying
you.
yes.
So I'll start. We kind of talked a little bit about what we were going to talk about tonight, and I'll start at the beginning. So I was going to Buff State College, and I had all my life dated guys from every background that you can think of, socioeconomic, other cultures, other races. So it never was something that was outside of the realm of possibility to me. I never thought about whether or not I should or shouldn't date somebody based on what they looked like. So it came very natural to me to either approach or be approached by someone who didn't look like me. So Joel and I met at Buff State. I was working in the bookstore, and I had been in the bookstore, I think, or I had been at college for, I think, a year prior to him getting there. And this one day, my boss, who never ever asked me to get her coffee, asked me to get her coffee that day. So I had to walk up 2 flights of stairs. I worked in the student union, and Joel was standing near the top of the stairs. And he was talking to a guy that he didn't know. He just ended up like meeting him at college, and they were just kind of hanging out on the top of the stairs. And as I passed by, we both looked at each other, and he said hello, and I said hello, and I proceeded to go get my supervisor's coffee. And I came back down after getting it, and he was still on the stairs talking to his friend. And he stopped me again and he said, "That's a really pretty dress you have on." And when he said that, he looked directly in my eyes when he said it, which was, I think, charming in a way, because I think a lot of, I think there are a lot of people who don't have um, direct eye contact with people. And it just, I don't know, there was an honesty and a truthfulness about it that I liked. It was attractive. And so I was like, I said, "It's a skirt and a top."
To this day, I still don't know the difference.
Right, but I don't know why I said that. I have no idea why I said that. But he got my attention, and obviously I had his. And we for like 2 weeks we kind of like would see each other in the student union. That's pretty much where we'd see each other. I worked there, and that was also the place where people got their food, and then they hung out with their friends after class and that kind of thing. And that's where we saw each other for like 2 weeks. And then after that, we've been together ever since. And I was 19. I was 19. Yeah.
Wow.
So you
Oh,
can share your experience. What your
Yeah, I
experience
saw it a
was.
little differently. In fact, first off, as far as her dating habits prior to me, this is the first time I'm hearing about this. So I'm very disturbed by the fact that she had dated so often before she met me. Like, she was my first. Like, I never dated anybody before her. So there's that.
No.
And then, I did not know this is how it was going to go. But back then, yes, I did stalk her. It was not stalking back then. In '87, it was not. There was no such term as stalking. So I just basically, right. I followed her around campus without her knowledge, and just try to plot how I was going to approach her. And so it worked. And so, yeah, it was, ever since then, we've been together for a very long time. So 1987 is a long time back. And during the course of our marriage, our relationship, even before we were married, it's like, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. You change, she changes, and through it all, you either decide you're going to stay together or you're not. And so, as far as the interracial aspect of it, my background was a little bit different than pretty much the opposite of hers. I basically was, from the time I was very young, involved with Black girls when I was a young boy. So it was like, as far as me in my teenage years, that was kind of who gravitated toward me and who I gravitated toward. And it was not just a physical attraction, but it was more a matter of things in common. And so it wasn't that I was not attracted to white girls. I was in 5th grade, 6th grade, and so on. Even I can remember 8th grade. But when I would talk to them, there was a difference with regard to what we have in common. So it was based on music, experiences, neighborhood, friends, things that you talk about when you're that age, and even things that last, into adulthood. But I just found that I always tended to have more in common with the Black kids or girls in my neighborhood than the white kids. And so it wasn't that I was against or opposed to dating someone who was white. It was just that when that opportunity presented itself, it just didn't, there wasn't that common thread that we had. And then if you flip that on the other side, I think the white girls who were from that, let's say, the same neighborhood or who had the same things in common were not looking for a white guy. Like, they were pursuing Black guys to be with because they had more of a connection with them. So for me, it was just a natural progression that who I was attracted to, was, again, I don't think primarily based on race, but more based on that person's experiences and their tastes. And in the end, it just turned out that it happened to boil down to race. So that's sort of, what happened with me.
So Joel, did you grow up in a predominantly African American community, or would you say it was 50-50, or what was the community like that you grew up in?
Early on, it was mostly white and
Okay.
and so that was the majority of my friends were white kids. And then right around the age of, I'm going to say 7 or 8, is when you're outside playing more often, it started to change. The neighborhood experienced white flight, where many of the white families had left, and that was in response to the first Black family moving in, who happened to be my best friend and is my best friend to this day. So we've known each other for 50, oh God, 53 years now. We've been best friends. We met when we were 3 years old. So we even go back further than the 6 or 7 years old time frame. But the point being is that we stayed friends the entire time. But as the neighborhood began to change, we stayed when a lot of the white families left. So it was at my teenage years predominantly a Black neighborhood and very few white kids living in the neighborhood, including myself. But there were some. But again, it was more or less in probably a span of about 10 years. It went from completely one side to the other side and a mixture in between. So that was, again, I maybe used the term adapted because it was, I don't necessarily know if it was a conscious effort or something that was subconscious, but it was just something that came somewhat naturally to me. And
Sure.
in that, there was always, like we talked about before, excuse me, we, you're growing up with kids that, in your neighborhood, and many of the kids of color would say, Joel's not white, Joel's Black, that kind of thing. And my knee-jerk reaction was, no, I'm white. Why am I, I knew what they were saying, and that it was more like a compliment based on the common themes that I talked about that we would have. But for some reason, they thought that I was not like your average white person, and that they had experienced, that they had, come into contact with. And I had more in common and knew a lot of things about the Black community because that's what I was exposed to.
Sure.
And so there come a point, and as a young person, there was the whole, and we want to preface this term with people who might take this term the wrong way, but Joel talks Black, or Joel acts Black, or something like that. So yes, I did, at a certain age. And when we say that, again, we're not going to go into the definition of, well, does talking Black mean talking improper or proper English? No, that's not what I'm getting at. I understand, the whole contention about people who say that, and that's not where I'm going. What I'm going with is that my friends who in the Black community would say that about me. And that got stuck. And there came a point as a young person, you're impressionable and you begin to believe it. And so I was walking in that for a very long time until I grew out of it. And when I grew out of it and got older, I really stopped trying to be someone that I was not. And I just was myself. And still to this day, I hold a lot of the more, I don't know what the word is. I hold some of the same qualities I grew up and learned. I don't know if it's learned behavior. I would imagine it is, but I still hold on to many of those attributes that I had growing up, and I can almost, I say, turn it on and off without even thinking about it in different social settings. And so it's, very, I would say, different, having grown up in the neighborhood that I grew up in, around the people I grew up around, and dating and marrying and so on.
And Dawn, did you also grow up what was your neighborhood dynamic growing up?
So I think I want to say I live in the city of Buffalo.
Okay.
My whole young adult life. Yeah. the neighborhood that I grew up in, probably from the age of as far back as I can remember, so which would be like 3 or so. I lived on like Glenwood down in the east side of Buffalo. Would you say that? No, that's not east side. What is that? Glenwood, like near Utica, like near
Oh.
Utica in Maine, like Glenwood's over there. So we grew up. Okay, so we grew up there until I was about 7 or so, and then we moved to like the downtown Buffalo. So I lived down there and went to school 3, and that neighborhood was predominantly Black as well. When we moved to Bennett Village Terrace, which is near the University District, it's also like right on that line of like East Side and like University District, then the neighborhood was mixed. So that was the time I had more people from other cultures and races on my block. However, because I went to school 3, which was downtown Buffalo, there were Italian families, Puerto Rican families, Arabian families. So I've always grown up around rich cultures and lots of people that would share their food and their stories and stuff like that. So I felt like I was fortunate in that way, that I was exposed so young to experience that and began to appreciate it and love it.
Yes.
So yeah, it was a great childhood to be able to have that. I think many times lots of children don't have that experience, and I think it's harder for them when they grow up to be exposed to certain cultures and things, and
Right.
but to have had that at a young age is priceless. It's priceless.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Totally agree with that. I am really interested to see how our discussions are going to continue to unfold. We're just starting. This is really, really awesome information. And it's interesting just to see how both of your backgrounds, interestingly enough, were very similar. And so it was very natural for the two of you to gravitate toward one another. So as we continue our discussions and keep unfolding and unpacking the topic of interracial relationships and marriages, I hope that the viewers will definitely decide to engage and comment and share their experiences as well. We want you to continue to watch, to like, to subscribe, hit the notification button so you know we are coming up with a new video. We appreciate you, Dawn and Joel, for joining us today. We're looking forward to seeing you on our next discussion. Buttercup, always good to see you.
Good to see you too, Tiramisu. Love you.
Love you too. So have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you all later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.